Watergate and the Impeachment of Richard Nixon by Kyle B. Desser and Aidan Marr Jacobson of the Marr Jacobson family, Marr Jacobson.
They say don't look into Watergate. Too late.
By the time that Nixon had become president, the executive branch had become the most powerful branch of government. Nixon enjoyed this added power to his presidency and even told a reporter, "A president must not be one of the crowd. People don't want him down there saying, 'Look, I'm the same as you.'" Nixon kept a small group of advisors consisting of H.R. Haldeman, the Chief of Staff, John L. Rickman, Chief Domestic Advisor, and John Mitchell, Attorney General. These men had similar mindset to Nixon and thought themselves above the law. "Stop looking into Watergate. Yes, I do indeed have a problem with it."
Nixon had a massive fear of losing the election and was willing to go as far as to steal election information from DNC headquarters. At 2:30 a.m. on June 17, 1972, 5 men were caught at the Watergate complex in Washington, D.C. The men had planned to take photographs of documents outlining the Democratic Party's strategy and to bug all the phones. It was later found that the group was led by James McCord. It was also found that James McCord was the security coordinator for the Committee to Re-elect the President, which was led by John Mitchell, who had resigned as Attorney General. I'm James McCord, and we're going to break into the DNC HQ in Watergate.
After being found out, the cover-up began. Any incriminating documents were shredded, and the CIA asked the FBI to stop their investigations for national security. The actual burglars were given $450,000 to remain silent about the ordeal. The public forgot about the entire thing, other than two reporters from the Washington Post, Bob Woodward and Carl Bernstein. However, every post they made was denied by the White House, and in the end, Nixon won the re-election by a landslide. "Please, accept this, although it's just small change."
The trials for the robbers had finally begun in January of 1973, with presiding judge being a man named John Sirica, who made it very clear that he believed the burglars were not acting alone. On March 20th, James McCord sent Sirica a letter admitting that he had lied under oath and that members of the Nixon administration were involved with the burglary. McCord's letter also led to increased public interest with Watergate. "Mr. Sirica, I lied under oath." And Mr. Sirica is looking at the letter and he's thinking, betrayal.
With the public interest in what happened, Nixon began to panic. On April 30th, 1973, Nixon dismissed White House counsel John Dean and fired Haldeman, L. Richmond, and Richard Kleindienst, who would replace John Mitchell as Attorney General. Nixon then went on TV and denied the cover-up even happened, and announced his new Attorney General, Elliot Richardson. Later, in May of 1973, the Senate began their own investigation of Watergate. The investigation was led by Senator Samuel James Irvine. "You're fired!"
In the court hearings, Senator Howard Baker was always asking, what did the president know, and how long did he know it? In June of 1973, John Dean gave a testimony where he stated that Nixon was deeply involved with the cover-up. The White House once again denied what Dean was saying, and the investigation wasn't sure who was telling the truth anymore. In July, presidential aide Alexander Butterfield revealed that Nixon was taping nearly all of the conversations about the cover-up. "You are lying. No, you are lying."
Elliot Richardson had appointed Archibald Cox to investigate the case. Cox took Nixon to court in October in order to obtain the tapes. Nixon didn't like this and ordered Richardson to fire Cox, to which Richardson refused. This became known as the Saturday Night Massacre, and Richardson resigned afterward. The Deputy Attorney General also refused the order and was fired. Finally, Solicitor General Robert Bork fired Cox. The man who then replaced Cox, Leon Jaworski, was just as determined to get the Nixon tapes as Archibald Cox was. On top of that, just before the Saturday Night Massacre, Vice President Spiro Agnew resigned after the fact that he accepted bribes was revealed. Afterward, Nixon appointed Gerald R. Ford as his new VP, and an examination of an impeachment hearing began soon after. My face when everyone starts quitting!
In spring of 1974, Nixon announced that he would release 1,254 pages of edited transcripts of the Nixon tapes, and investigators were not satisfied, saying that they wanted the unedited footage. Nixon refused to give the full tapes, which eventually got taken to the Supreme Court and United States v. Nixon, which began on July 24, 1974. The Supreme Court unanimously decided that Nixon must give the tapes and rejected his claim that it would violate national security. They said no criminal evidence could be withheld, even for the president. Through the entire thing, Nixon always said he did nothing wrong, and at a press conference in November of 1973, he stated, "I am not a crook."
And I want to say this to the television audience. I made my mistakes. But in all of my years of public life, I have never profited from public service. I've earned every cent. And in all of my years of public life, I have never obstructed justice. And I think, too, that I can say that in my years of public life, that I welcome this kind of examination, because people have got to know whether or not their president is a crook. Well, I'm not a crook. I've earned everything I've got.
President?
Yes, sir.
Denying the Supreme Court like a boss.
The House of Judiciary Committee eventually decided that they had enough evidence to impeach Nixon. July 27, 1974, they approved 3 articles charging Nixon with obstruction of justice, abuse of power, and contempt of Congress for refusing to obey a congressional subpoena to release the tapes. Then, on August 5th, Nixon released the tapes, which contained many gaps, including an 18-and-a-half-minute gap. Supposedly, Nixon's secretary, Rosemary Woods, accidentally erased a conversation between H.R. Haldeman and Nixon. Eventually, a tape from June 23, 1972, emerged, which contained all the evidence the investigators needed. Nixon knew about the burglary and planned to stop the FBI from investigating. In the end, on August 8, 1974, Nixon resigned from office, still claiming he was not guilty. You can't fire me! I quit! Thank you
Thank you for watching.